Hello there, Tom Kosnik, founding partner of the Devices Group here with Patrick Morin with Trans Capital. Patrick, welcome.
Hey, thank you, Tom. I appreciate it. Really looking forward to this conversation for a while.
Yeah. So, hey, we at the Devices Group, we do a lot of organizational development, growth strategy work, helping people that own staffing companies grow those companies. Tell us a little bit about Transact Capital.
See, we really appreciate guys like you because we are usually at the end of that life, or at least over on the buy side. So we are an M&A advisory firm. We're a fully licensed investment bank, and with 20 people strong, offices in New York, Richmond, Nashville, and a couple more coming in the next year. But we specialize in the human capital management industry, everything from perm to temp, RPO, PEOs, and we also sell human capital management tech companies as well. So we're pretty much deeply involved in the ecosystem, including members of SIA and many of the other associations in the industry.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Hey, give us your M&A, your 2025 M&A outlook. What are you seeing there?
Pretty enthused about what 2025 is shaping up to be, simply because the drop in interest rates and also with the election behind us, a lot of the factors that influence M&A are now figured out. And so we're already starting to see the phones ring off the hook from both buyers and sellers about representation. So we're expecting next year to be pretty robust in M&A activity.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Hey, so a lot of the people the people or the families that we work with, we're trying to increase the value asset of that entity. Ultimately, and you've always heard, hey, build to sell, regardless of what you're going to do with that company, always be thinking build to sell. But one concept is the owner not being intimately involved in all the key accounts and all the processes. What's your thought on that dynamic in terms of increasing the value asset of a business?
Yeah, the number one question that we get after what space are they in and are they growing? Do they have growing revenue, growing EBITDA? The number one question we get is, tell us about the management team that's not the owner. Tell us about that second tier of management. Because it represents the quality of that team, represents really the upside of the company, and it also represents some of the risk if they're weak. So we are regularly asked to comment on the performance of the company as it relates to the individuals that are running it. So investing in the training, investing in the education, and making sure that your team fully understands the business and is competent without the founder, without the owner, without the CEO, very, very important.
Yeah. Hey, another dynamic that we see a lot in the staffing industry that we work to, whether this is strategic planning or sales planning, and that is reducing client concentration. So, quick question: yes, is client concentration a big deal? How much is good? How much is not good? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, client concentration's extremely important, especially in middle market type companies. Let's just say anything under $200 million in revenue. And it's important because it represents a risk if that client actually goes away or if the relationship sours. So we normally advise that, no more than 15 to 20% of a firm's revenue should be coming from any one client. Now, the bigger problem, Tom, is when the client comes and says, "Hey, we'd like to increase our sales with your company." It's hard to turn that away. It's okay. You can accept it. It's smart. It's continued growth. But just make sure that you've got sales incentives that are training your team to sell away from that so you can at least diversify that customer concentration.
Yeah, and then if you get north of 20%, it's going to affect either the maybe not affect the value of the entity, but it's going to affect the structure of the deal, correct?
Without question, is they're going to start tying any of the valuation to the ongoing performance of that particular client.
Yeah.
And so it's something that we can manage away from as long as you got a longer term view of your exit.
Hey, and so technology, we're almost technology fatigued here in the staffing industry with all the stuff that's coming at us. But I've also have heard from a lot of buyers that you're almost better off just having functional technology, because if a larger company acquires my business, they're going to have us adopt to their transfer onto their technology platform. So there's been many times where I've had a client that was positioning to sell like in 2 years, and whoa, wait, hold up on that $500,000 technology investment in your business. If you're going to be selling in 2 years, probably not a smart thing to do. Yes, no.
Yeah, spot on. If you're going to be selling imminently, then switching technologies is not going to be a value add for you at all. And our industry has such standardized tech within it, whether or not you're on Aviante or you're on Bullhorn or any of the major platforms, those are going to be plug and play and they're easy to migrate. So having anything that is company proprietary used to have a lot of value because it made you more competitive and reduced friction of being able to fill jobs. But now, really, the real value is going to be on some of those bigger platforms that are easy to transfer. And going through an adoption of a new platform right before you're going to go into an M&A process, not your best look, because there's all kinds of speed bumps that can happen along with that.
Yeah, yeah. There's several other things we could talk about on the sell side. On the buy side, we have clients that ask us for advice on the buy side, and I've learned from my clients that the number one criteria is the culture match. Yes, no?
Yeah, well, McKinsey did the study a few years ago that talks about the failures of M&A to be accretive in their objective, and it really does come around the cultural integrations, the cultural match, because the real risk is that if there is a significant cultural mismatch, you could have attrition in a lot of the individuals. Or if you're trying to bring on a new technology platform to an acquired company and they push back really hard because there's no change management or there's no real desire to move forward in terms of technology or process or other things, you can run into a brick wall on that. So of the four things that we look for in a transaction, first being the value, whether or not it's a good deal for the parties involved. The second is speed to close, which is can you get a deal done fairly quickly. Third is surety of close, meaning once you start down the path of doing M&A that you're going to actually get the deal closed itself. Then the fourth element of that is going to be that cultural fit and those cultural alignments.
Yeah, lot to think about. You get calls, I get calls from people. Oh, I want to buy a company in 2025. It's any advice for a management team that's new at buying staffing companies?
Yeah, a couple of pieces of advice on that one. First one is understand your buying criteria. Understand the size, the checkbook, where the money is going to be coming from, the cultural touch points that are non-negotiable that you want to be able to include in there. And then also be looking at geography. If that's one of the considerations, what are those major elements? And put that onto binaries. It's yes or no. It's on or it's off. And if you've got four of the boxes checked of the 5 elements that you came up with, that's terrific. Then go ahead and move forward with it. The second part of this is make sure that you have assembled a professional team before you go on the hunt. Make sure you have an M&A specific attorney. There are ones that are within the staffing industry that are very specific. They know not just M&A, but they also know the industry. Make sure that you've got your financing lined up, whether or not you're going to be doing it through one of the major banks or you're going to be doing it off your own balance sheet. Make sure you know what your check size is going to be. Make sure in the staffing industry that you have talked to your insurance guys, because you're going to be bringing these plans together. Some of you they could be on a captive, or some could be on a retro plan, and you want to make sure that you've got, workers' comp is such a huge part of this. You want to make sure that your insurance guy is in the loop on that. And then ultimately, you'll also want to make sure that if you're on the buy side, that you have hired a buy-side Q of E, quality of earnings accounting firm, to be able to make sure that what you're buying is what you're getting.
A lot to think about. We fought here at Devices Group. We just focus on all those internal operating systems and processes. Make sure that we're driving value to increasing the asset value of the entity. And you and I have worked together on a handful of deals, and always been a pleasure to have you involved with with clients of ours at different stages.
I appreciate that, Tom. And I will tell you this, and I know you didn't expect me to say it, but the clients that we've referred over to you report back to me that they just love dealing with you. So, to the degree that you're adding value to their conversations and making them better prepared to sell, it's a value add for guys like me further down the food chain.
It's great, great. Well, Patrick, thanks so much. Patrick Morin, Transact Capital, Tom Kosnik, Vices Group. We will, I'm sure we'll be out on the circuit talking more about M&A activity in 2025.
You bet. Thanks, Tom. I appreciate being invited on.
You're welcome.